Now, your hosts, Vicki Hyman and Erin Medley.
Hello and welcome to Remote Possibilities. I am Erin Medley. I would like to say that I am alongside Vicki Hyman, but we're actually on opposite coasts right now. Vicki, are you there?
I am here. I am in my lush bed at the Legham in Pasadena at the Television Critics Association Winter Press Tour, and it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was up very late last night.
So basically, if our podcast sounds a little odd today, it's because Vicki is in bed. She couldn't even get up for you guys on our first show back after the break.
I had to get up. I had to go to the bathroom. I had to take my morning, wash my face, but then I got back into bed, because why not?
More than we ever needed to know, Vicki. Let's remind people to follow us on Twitter at Remote Podcast. Even though Vicki and I were off for the past, 5 weeks, Remote Podcast on Twitter was not off, so make sure you follow us. I am at E_meds, and Vicki is at Vicki High, VICKIHY. So, Vicki, the big news here, you are in Los Angeles for the Television Critics Association press tour, where they wine and dine you, and you meet random celebrities like the one we were talking about before we started recording. You ran into Nick Viall last night.
Yes, it was like the weirdest moment for me, because it's like I'm used to seeing like random sitcom stars and drama stars or whatever. And the season hasn't really kicked off yet, but then I have been watching The Bachelor, and then all of a sudden it was like, there's Nick, who I was watching the other night. It's like, oh, hi. Yeah. I actually didn't really talk to him. I was just like, I had really nothing to say to him. And I don't really think he has that much to say, period.
He seems like a very intelligent young man, and I would not, I wouldn't deny that. I think he probably has a lot to say.
Yeah, but he can't say it. The problem, he had a minder with him, so there's that,
There is that. So we're going to talk about The Bachelor a little later, because Vicki and I are both caught up, much to her chagrin, I'm sure. So, Vicki, what's some other news that has come out of TCA? I know there have been some renewals.
Yeah, the CW renewed much of its slate on Sunday, including Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which we both love, which we both have trouble, I think, keeping up on sometimes. And it's like one of the lowest rated shows in the 1849 demo, which is interesting. But they don't have as high a bar, I think, as other networks. But I'm happy that they renewed it. That's great. All their superhero shows got renewed. I think they have 4 now. And Jane the Virgin got renewed. And, of course, Supernatural is back for a 13th season. I haven't watched it since the first, but,
season?
13th season, or was it 15th? I know 13th season. It is the third. They were talking about a bar mitzvah, so it was the 13th season. Which, Dallas was 14 seasons, so they are, edging into historic territory here. And
that is crazy. And a lot of people watch that show.
Yeah, the CW chairman was like, as long as they want to keep doing it, as long as I'm the boss, as long as it keeps performing, why not? I guess, And I guess that helps Crazy Ex-Girlfriend stay on the air, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Beyond, which is a new show on Freeform, that was renewed, and I know that's received some critical acclaim. Have you watched Beyond?
I have not. It was like there are so many screeners I have, and that was something I took I would say a hard pass on. I considered it, but and I think it's only aired 2 episodes, but apparently it's doing really, really well on its streaming platform. Got 14 million views total since in the first week, 7 million on streaming, and they also have I believe it's all available on the Freeform app. Freeform streaming all 10 episodes. So.
It is. So that's a new model for traditional networks to release the shows or release all episodes on streaming and then still air it weekly on broadcast. So there's that.
I mean, anything can help to make it distinctive and to get people on board. Why not?
Right. And it certainly seems like they have, so it's worked out for them. Any other TCA news? Any tidbits, things we should know?
It's like most of what happens at TCA is that you kind of get excited for shows that you weren't really excited for because sometimes you have like very charismatic cast. Like I was at the ABC Downward Dog panel yesterday. Do you know anything about Downward Dog?
I have never heard of the show. Let me guess, it has to do with yoga?
No, actually, I don't think it does. It's based on a web series about a single woman and her dog who happens to talk, and is very like sort of wry and philosophical. And it stars Allison Tolman, who was wonderful in the first season of Fargo, and Lucas Neff, who is from Raising Hope and who is just the funniest guy in the world. And that panel was very charming. I talked to Allison Tolman later at the cocktail party, and I'm actually kind of excited for this. But the problem is that it was one of the few shows that ABC did not give a premiere date to yet. So it's now in the summer. It's scheduled for some time in the summer, and summer is when they often burn off things, but not necessarily.
Correct.
Because now these days, a lot of new stuff premieres in the summer. So I have high hopes for that. I also actually, and I saw the screener for this one, have high hopes for Time After Time. Which,
I was just about to ask you about this.
We probably talked about it, that the 1979 movie is one of my favorite movies of all time. It probably started me on science fiction as a genre. I mean, I was like 8 or something when I saw it. And I've always been saying for like the last few years, they should remake this movie, blah, blah, blah. Well, they're remaking it as a TV series. I was less excited about that because it's like, it's got a very good plot, and it's about H.G. Wells is an inventor and a fledgling writer, and he built a time machine because he's a utopian and wants to like make the world a better place, or at least maybe that's not why he built it, but he does want to make the world a better place. His bestie is a doctor who it turns out is Jack the Ripper, who escapes into the time machine into the future, and H.G. Wells has to chase him into the future.
Oh, I remember this. We've talked about this show.
Yeah, great. It was a great movie. And what I really love about the pilot is that the H.G. Wells character, he's this sort of like very sweet, nice guy who like he's not really dark at all. And Freddie Stroma plays him from Unreal, plays the Bachelor Unreal. And I didn't think Freddie Stroma has like that much in him, but he's really good in this role. Josh Bowman, who's from Revenge, plays the Jack the Ripper character. And, it is, of course, it is pretty ridiculous. They both adapt to the 21st century way too easily. But I really enjoyed it. So I'm excited about that one.
Time After Time premieres on Sunday, March 12th at 9 p.m. before the Season 3 premiere of American Crime, which is a show you like.
Oh, I do. And I was actually at the panel last night. I had a nice long talk with John Ridley and Benito Martinez, who was on the first.
I love how you're just name dropping. And it's not even subtle. You're just dropping the names like hammers.
Well, I mean, like, I don't know how much Benito Martinez is going to mean to a lot of people, but he was on Sons of Anarchy and The Shield, and he was a lovely interview.
We're never going to get Vicki back from L.A. She has completely abandoned all that is holy about the East Coast and just fallen into La La Land.
I have very nice, real conversations with these people about specific things. So here's what I don't know. We're taking a detour. No, I mean I do, but I want to know first how you approach these celebrities and what's your opener? Like, what's the question you ask? Are you like, hey, how's the weather? Well, it's funny because there are different opportunities to speak to them. First of all, there's the panel, and then after the panel's over, there's what's called a scrum. So if you know that people aren't going to be at the cocktail party later, and this might be your only chance to get a one-on-one, you just run up to the stage, and there's probably already 2 or 3 people around, like the really famous people, and so you just kind of stick your microphone in there and hope she's going to say something that has to do with whatever story you're writing. But otherwise, I mean, like Benito Martinez was sort of sitting in the back of the panel, and I wanted to ask him something very specifically about the character he plays in season 3 and the similarities to the character he played in season 1. And so I just go up and say, hi, Vicki Hyman from, Star Ledger, NJ.com. Can I ask you about blah, blah, blah? Like I would at any other story I was writing. The cocktail parties are just so weird, though, because, you have all of these stars and all of these PCA members just sort of milling around and, they're trying to eat, like they're at a cocktail party. It's actually sort of the same thing as a scrum, actually, because you have, like, a bunch of people who start gathering around them. And then you actually have to, like, wait your turn and hope that the person in front of you hasn't asked the exact same question you're going to ask. But, sometimes, I got Allison's Homeland last night for probably about, like, a good 5 minutes by myself, which was really nice. It's like, to me, the weird thing is, like, you're passing by somebody who's in a project that you're not very interested in, or they've been on TV for a while, and you have nothing to ask them, and they sort of look at you like a little expectantly, and I'm like, I got nothing. Patricia Heaton, I got nothing. Wesley,
so tell me about,
wait, I got nothing.
Was Patricia Heaton on Malcolm in the Middle? No. Wait.
No, I can't remember what she was. I mean, she's on the middle now. That's what she's on.
The middle. That's what it is.
Middle.
Not Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah, no, she was on Raymond. She was on Raymond. You're confusing me.
Right.
But my favorite one was like, and every so often there's like a really famous person there, and so I'm like walking into one of the rooms, and Guy Pearce walks past me. LA Confidential is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I just made the sound in my throat like. It's like, oh my God, it's Guy Pearce. By the way, he's in what looks to be a very good ABC miniseries about the gay rights movement, which I'm writing about in today's on NJ.com today. So check it out.
Well, we certainly will.
Yeah.
So tell us about season 3 of American Crime.
American Crime is set in North Carolina, and it has to do again a lot with illegal immigration. Some of the cast is back, and they're playing a struggling farm that is under a lot of price pressure from its the people that they sell to get the price down, and so they have to basically start hiring a lot of illegal immigrants. And well, actually, they may have already started hiring illegal immigrants, but they have to hire a lot more to bring the price down. And it's about the terrible conditions they work under and how it's almost some sort of like indentured servitude. Benito Martinez plays an illegal immigrant who his son has disappeared into North Carolina, and he's actually there just looking for him, but it's hard to find him because he's kind of stuck on this farm. There's there's just there's always a lot of different social issues that come into play, but a lot of the cast is back, including Regina King, who's awesome, Felicity Huffman, and then there's I don't remember if Tim DeKay was on it last year, but I've always been a big fan of Tim DeKay.
Tim DeKay, Rutgers University graduate.
There we go. Who I always remember from Carnival, one of my favorite old HBO shows.
Well, I really loved him on White Collar. You know, that classic TV drama.
With Matt Bomer, right?
With Matt Bomer, that is correct. One of my favorite shows of the past few years.
Okay, I have nothing to say to that. Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
And we did want to talk about Hulu's Handmaid's Tale, right?
Yes, The Handmaid's Tale, which is premiering on Hulu later this year. When is it? March?
Oh, no, April, like late end of April.
April. Right. And it stars Elizabeth Moss, Alexis Bledel, which was announced at TCA or last week, Samir Wiley from Orange is the New Black. And if you have not watched last season, that's a slight spoiler.
Yes.
And it is, you explain what it's about, because although I have seen a press screener, I'm not great with explaining things. All I know is that it's a dystopian world.
Yes. It's based on Margaret Atwood's famous 1980s novel, which has a lot to do with reproductive choice. And it's about a world that takes place in part of what used to be the United States, where a sort of theocratic, autocratic society is taken over because of the infertility crisis. And they have these now very rigid rules for women where you're either a wife or you are a Martha, which is sort of a servant, or you are a handmaiden. And it takes off of the biblical story, I believe it's Abraham and Sarah, where Rachel and Jacob. There you go. Where Rachel could not conceive, and so she had her handmaiden. Basically, she had Jacob have sex with her handmaiden, and then that was going to be considered her child. And they actually do this in, like, they have this sex scene, this the most awkward three-way ever.
Oh my gosh, it's
the
worst.
handmaiden sits basically on the lap of the wife as the commander has sex with the handmaiden, but they're all dressed and everything except for,
right.
the unmentionables. But these women, the handmaids, they remember the time before all this happened. There was a kind of a takeover of the society. And so Elizabeth Moss was able to give birth. She has a daughter out there somewhere. It's being raised by somebody else, presumably. She wants to get back to her daughter, but she's stuck in this society. And,
right.
I love the book. There was a movie that was not very good. It's also been like an opera, maybe a ballet, a play. It's been a lot of things. And this, it starts off as a very traditional adaptation of this. And it's a very visual adaptation because the women aren't allowed to read. And so there's a lot of, like, colors that distinguish, basically what caste you're in. It's done very, very well, but I had a long conversation with the creator who talked about how he was going to have it, like, sort of go in other directions. I mean, it's an open-ended kind of book. Like, things happen in the book, but it's just a lot of internal monologues, and you're just learning what it's like to be in this society, which, when I first read it, in the 1990s, felt like sort of a cautionary tale, like, this is what could happen. And I know, with certain people in the vice presidency who have certain plans for women's bodies, it feels like more like prophecy to me, like this is what, actually could be. So it's extremely relevant. And I think Elizabeth Moss, when we were talking to her in the scrum, said something like, I hope this is not relevant in 30 years. Like this, this scares me.
It scares us all,
it's
Elizabeth.
Really well done. I'm very excited for it.
Well, that's good. I look forward to watching more of The Handmaid's Tale, which premieres on Hulu. And what I love about Hulu and their streaming shows is that they roll them out once a week, so you won't be able to binge The Handmaid's Tale. It's going to come out once a week.
I don't think you want to. I mean,
I don't think you want to.
They're just sort of heavy. And as I said, it's a lot of monologue, not a heck of a lot of action, at least in the first episode, that it's like you just want to sort of meditate on it. I really like it.
And so I didn't tell you that I started to watch the OA.
The what?
Because OA.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The OA.
Oh, the OA. Oh, my God.
Yes. Wait, did you watch it?
Have we talked about the OA? Yeah.
We've never talked about it. But we can't spoil. Wait, you can't spoil it for me because
okay.
I'm only on episode 1, and I know it's only 8 episodes, so I figured I could, bang through it in 1 week. So by next week's show, we can talk about it.
Oh my God. Yeah, that finale. Okay.
Okay, that's what everyone keeps saying. The finale. Okay, so Vicki, we got
15 minutes. Oh my God.
See, now I have to blow through these next 7 episodes. One thing that we have to talk about that I don't want to talk about, and maybe we don't have to talk about it because it's still a little early. We don't want to spoil it for people. But last night, This Is Us returned, and they answered the big question about whether or not Toby is dead. I will have to admit, even though Sterling K. Brown is my Twitter boyfriend,
and
I did not watch.
You saw him shirtless last night. Oh my God, you missed him shirtless last night.
Wait, no, that I didn't miss. I watched like the first 15 minutes. So that was in the bathroom scene when the wife wanted to have sex, and then he didn't want to, but then he took his shirt off, right?
I don't remember. I was just kind of like, I'm sorry, we're objectifying men on this podcast. Yes. I apologize to all you men out there. But my God.
Focus, Vicki. Focus. So wait, do I want to be spoiled on the episode, or should I just watch it?
Well, I mean, you know what happened to Toby in like the first 5 minutes, right? I mean.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if something happened after that.
No. I mean, like, yeah, something just happened, but he's not. Okay, can I just say what happened? He's not dead. He doesn't
Spoiler
die.
alert. No, he didn't die.
He doesn't die. But you also don't know what happened to Gerald McRaney in the episode either.
No.
That was the other cliffhanger, and you're not going to find out next week because I screened the second week at PCA. And let me just tell you, like, I thought I know you didn't watch it last night, but it was a good episode. It was fine. It moved the plot forward a little bit, gave you like a little insight actually into into Milo and Mandy's. I can't remember Jack and
Rebecca?
Their,
no.
Rebecca, thank you. Their parents, which was very interesting. But next episode is mostly a flashback episode, and it's heavy on the McRaney, and it is wonderful. And I think I cried 7 times. And I was like, we were in a theater in Pasadena, and I'm like,
wait, you were crying in front of other people?
Oh my God! Not only was I crying in front of other people, I was crying in front of the creator, Ryan Fogelman. No, Dan Fogelman. I'm sorry, Dan Fogelman. Who was actually standing just behind me and to the right, because I was in the corner. And I had an interview him afterwards. So I'm like, I'm sorry. I was like sobbing. Of course, he loved it, you know.
They were like, who is this crazy person they brought in from New Jersey?
I mean, I'm
bawling
sure
at a screening
too, but I was like wiping the tears.
Oh my God! Well, here's a little. Here may be a little clue into Gerald McRaney's future. He was announced as a full-time cast member on 24 Legacy last week.
Yeah, I did talk to him about that.
Where, by the way, he's playing Jimmy Smith's father, which doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just saying.
I didn't talk to him about the 24 thing. I was just talking about this as
well. Of course you were.
Yes, because that was a story I was working on.
So before we get into The Bachelor, which we will next, I just had a quick question. Have you watched any of One Day at a Time, the reboot on Netflix?
I did. I watched.
Oh, how many episodes? Oh, just the first one? I watched 3. And I will say that I was not in love with the first episode, so I thought I'd give it another shot. And I liked it. I really started to like it. It's fun. It's, it has its serious moments. It does tackle some heavy topics as you progress in the series. But, as a family-friendly sitcom goes, it was good.
Well, it's funny because I liked the first episode a lot more than I liked Fuller House.
Wow.
And I
think that's too difficult to do.
No. Because I'm coming from the One Day at a Time generation. I'm not coming from the Full House generation. But the thing that confused me is that, I could sort of understand, what the appeal of Fuller House is, because it basically just is Full House, with the same cast growing up. Whereas I was a little confused by the One Day at a Time-edness of this. They're not living in Indianapolis. They're a Cuban-American family. The mother's there. So it is still a single woman raising 2 kids, one a girl, one a boy. And they're younger in the show. And so I'm like, is there enough One Day at a Time nostalgia to build this whole thing around the One Day at a Time?
Well, you forgot the most important part.
What? Oh,
Schneider.
Yeah. Of course, there's Schneider, who's different. And this one, I was just kind of confused as to, why it's being branded with One Day at a Time. And I know, in this very crowded TV landscape, you're going to, grab whatever already has currency. One Day at a Time has some currency, the original. So,
well, I think it's because, I think you're 100% correct. Dude, could you imagine if Netflix came out and they said, we're going to do a half-hour comedy about a Cuban-American mother and her raising her 2 daughters with her kooky neighbor and her mother? No one's watching that. So you have to say it's One Day at a Time just to get people to tune in.
So I guess it was just something that sort of it was in my mind as I'm watching it. And so I had a hard time sort of and I was looking for the connective tissue to the original. And so I wasn't really watching it to appreciate it just for what it was. And I've heard that actually people really enjoy it. I am not much of a multicam audience laughing kind of sitcom person. But, I might give another try. And I hear Rita Moreno is great. She's 84
yes, Rita Moreno, who I walked behind in my office last week, and I was like, this is the best trip to the bathroom ever, because that's where I was going. And that was our second bathroom reference of this podcast, by the way. And she looked fabulous.
I have a bathroom
You already had one.
I have another one. I peed next to Gina Rodriguez.
Okay, TMI.
I mean, we were in different stalls. We were in 2 stalls.
Thank you. I was like, what are you, in the men's bathroom? I'm crazy talk. So the only other thing with One Day at a Time that bothered me is what you were saying. So on the show, the mom is supposed to be 38 years old because she says her age. And Rita Moreno is 85. And I'm just like, yes, she looks young, but geez Louise, there's no way Rita Moreno could be this lady's
the
mother.
It's
just
well,
not
it
going to
didn't bother
happen.
me at all. I did enjoy it, but it's like another thing. Like I'm not going to spend time watching the show when there are so many other things to watch. I'm sorry. It's like sitcoms are just, unless you're like Better Things.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Atlanta, you like that. Atlanta, which came up big at the Golden
Atlanta.
Globes.
It did. Thank you very much. I'm dusting off my shoulder. You can't see it.
Oh, that's right. Vicki won our Golden Globes bet. If you were following at Remote Podcast on Twitter, Vicki was victorious. I'm going to start calling you
Atlanta
Victorious Vicki. Yes, Atlanta and The Crown. The Crown, which I still have not finished. I think I'm on episode 5.
Oh, really? Is it too
or whatever the
you?
Fog episode is. That's the one I'm on.
Oh, that's episode 3.
Oh.
Episode 3. I don't have much hope for Erin finishing The Crown.
I will. It's a slow burn for me. I'll get there eventually. I already know what happens. Real life.
Yeah, she becomes queen. She's still
alive.
alive.
My goodness. Winston Churchill dies. FYI. Spoiler.
Actually, I don't think he dies in this
No,
season.
he doesn't. Not in this first season. Yeah. All right. So let's move on to more important things like The Bachelor. So The Bachelor premiered last week with Nick. They call him Nick Viall, but I swear season 1 it was Nick Viall. His name is Viall. His last name.
That would make more sense considering nobody wants to be called Viall.
Viall, correct, but they call him Nick Viall, so whatever. So the first week he narrowed down his group of 30 to 22, and there were some standouts right from the beginning. There was Dolphin Girl, a.k.a. Jersey Girl. I don't know her. What's her name?
It looks like Alexis Waters, maybe? She looks like she's going to have a massive week next week. Wow. Did you watch the season next week? Yeah.
No, I didn't. I should have. Okay, I'll go back and watch. Also a standout, Liz. Liz is a woman that Nick slept with after Jade and Tanner's wedding, as we've now heard 5 million times. And also a standout, Corinne, the 24-year-old business owner with her own nanny.
With her own nanny, who delivers her cut up a sliced cucumbers in a bowl, which I didn't even know was a thing. Is that a thing?
Yeah. Is it a thing? Not unless you're putting them on your eyes and you're at the spa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that was week 1.
Yeah.
Now we're in week 2, which
1.
aired on Monday. That was week 1. So those 3 ladies all survived the first week, the first rose ceremony, which is shocking, but not too shocking if you're a fan of The Bachelor. So now we're on week 2. And on week 2, Vicki, The Bachelor went for a classic group date where the women dressed up as brides and posed for wedding photos with Nick. And they all had their own themes, yes.
They all had their own theme. And Corinne, so it's a funny thing. I think of you as my Bachelor Yoda and I'm your Padawan because I do not watch this a lot. And so Corinne seems to me, as they say, leading with her sexuality, like the things that she was doing seem kind of shocking to me as a person who hasn't really watched the show, ever.
They are.
And
as a person who's watched the show, they are shocking things. Like she has basically one-upped every crazy person that has ever appeared on this program.
Okay, so she took off her bikini top. And
she took off her bikini top and got naked.
And had Nick. Well, actually, I think that
cupped her boobs.
No one has ever held my boobs like that. No one ever will, like with hands. I mean, like what? I mean, like with feet? I don't understand. So she basically got him to hold her boobs in front of all the other ladies, which is a major power move, right?
Right, definitely a power move. She wanted to show the women who was boss. And
then later there was a whole interrupting and re-interrupting thing.
Okay,
what is etiquette
you don't
in
watch.
the world?
Okay, so it's fine. All right, if you are on a group date or it's the cocktail party before the rose ceremony, and you have not spoken to the Bachelor or the Bachelorette, and someone else has, is currently speaking to them and has been for more than a few minutes, it is okay for you to go up to them and say, can I steal Nick, or can I speak to him for a moment? That is fine. Corinne's problem is that she actually won the group date. So she had private time with Nick already.
Mm-hmm.
Then when they were on the group date and other people wanted to have private time with Nick, she kept interrupting and stealing him away. She did it like 2 or 3 times. That is not proper Bachelor etiquette. She had already won her one-on-one time, so she should have left it alone. She did not need more time with Nick. That's how you do it.
It did not seem to be. It did. Well, the thing that I thought was funniest was when she comes back and then somebody interrupts her, I think.
Yes. Oh, the other girl who I think is a sleeper crazy person. I don't know her name, but I think she's a sleeper.
But then Corinne Taylor, I think, maybe Taylor. Corinne seems to get very offended about being reinterrupted, and then there's this whole weird conversation about like, is there a situation? There's no situation. As long as there's no situation about the situation, we're okay. And I'm like, what is going on? Massive passive aggressiveness.
Because Corinne is not a rational human being. So as long as we are clear on that. No.
Oh, really?
No.
I thought this was the kind of person that they like to promote.
Let me tell you what's going to happen. In a few weeks, she's going to sleep with Nick, or at least try to sleep with Nick, because we're moving in that direction. He's going to reject her, and he will send her home. I'm saying she makes maybe final 8. Maybe final 8. That's as high as I'm giving her. But you know who did not survive this week's episode?
Oh,
Liz.
Yeah, Liz. Liz, the woman who had already sucked the Bachelor.
Yes. Now let me I think that Liz got unreeled. #. And what I mean by that is I think that there was a lot of manipulation by the producers and a lot of goading and like encouraging her to keep bringing up the fact that she'd slept with Nick before. Because if you watch the show closely, as I did, she used basically the same phrase over and over again. Nick and I met at Jade and Tanner's wedding, and then we hooked up. Something like to that effect. But she said it the exact same way at least 3 times in that episode. And to me, that's her parroting a producer. So I think she got unreeled.
I kind of would think that they all get unreeled all the time, but this was a particular unreeled. I felt kind of bad for her, actually. I mean,
me too.
I do kind of. I feel for Nick in the sense that he probably did not expect to be confronted with a woman he had already slept with. Is that must be like a new Bachelor thing, right? That's never happened before, right?
No, I don't think that's ever happened before.
Former bed partners do not like pop up on The Bachelor.
Right.
But yeah, I see what you mean about the unreal. Like she was talking to people and then it sort of became a thing and he was asking so many questions and yeah.
It was the entire thing was a setup. And I heard an interview with the SVP of reality programming at ABC where he said the way Liz was found is that obviously Jade and Tanner's wedding aired as a special on ABC, and they knew that Nick and Liz had hooked up, and so they reached out to Liz to get her on the show. It's not like she applied.
Well, I would love to be at like one of those like planning sessions. You know, it's like the Mean Girls lunch table. That person's up with that person. Yeah, I mean, like, I also thought it was, like, kind of cheesy and lame the way that Nick is trying to be, like, this, like, you know, the big guy, and, like, I have to question your motives that you're not doing.
Right.
I mean, that's what gets me. I'm sorry. That is what ultimately gets me about The Bachelor, whatever snippet I have watched, that people are really pretending like they are coming
that they're there
on
for
the
the
show
right reason.
to find real love. And this is the only way they can find real love. If they don't find real love, then their life is over. And that they convince themselves after spending 2 minutes in his presence, oh, he could be the one. That's like, oh my God, please, girlfriend.
Well, here's what I'll say to that. If they weren't some of the most above average looking people that I've ever seen, then I could totally buy that, because as a below average looking person, it is hard to find someone. What? I'm just saying.
I found somebody, and I am far below average looking than you are. I mean,
please.
You look good. I have seen the Instagram feed.
Follow me at Frequent Shopper. True. No, but I see what you're saying, and I do think some people believe that they can find love, or with the tradition that The Bachelor and The Bachelorette have had of pick to be the next Bachelor or Bachelorette, viewers watching think that they know this person. So I could sort of see how that would be the case. But for Nick to say to Liz, oh, you're here, just to get on TV, I'm like, dude, this is your fourth time around the bend.
Dude,
yeah. Fourth time.
And I wish she had said that. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, she didn't strike me as the brightest bulb, so there's that. All right, so moving on from The Bachelor, we'll see what goes down next week because this episode was to be continued after Liz was ousted. Vicki Homeland returns this Sunday on Showtime, and you.
It does.
Yes.
No, it does. And I'm just saying that people might have already seen the first episode because it was available early on Showtime streaming. And I've actually only seen the first episode, too. I haven't gotten a chance to watch the rest. But I enjoyed it. I'm a person who has always liked Homeland. I never thought it was as good as everybody said in the first episode, and then I never thought it was as bad as everybody thought in the second and third seasons, although Brody's death was kind of lame. I just think it's a really good spy thriller that manages to be, very on the ball scarily, especially because this season they're in New York. And it's always very sort of sharp and very specific, and as opposed to a lot of other more generic spy dramas. So yeah, I mean, I am interested in this season. I'm going to be watching it. I like the fact that there's been a sort of believable evolution of Carrie from the drone queen we saw in the fourth episode to where she is now, which is somebody who realizes all the damage that our national international intelligence services do. And she's working with, I think, the same guy, Otto Duran's foundation. And what she's doing is sort of helping Muslims who are being unfairly targeted or profiled by the intelligence services, and trying to stop that. I think everybody has ruined the fact already that Quinn did survive, although he is not a whole man by any stretch of the imagination. He had a stroke after being in the sarin gas experiment, and he's living at the VA hospital, and Carrie is trying to help him, and I think Rupert Friend is giving a really amazing performance as a guy who is, he's trying to recover. He's obviously got a lot of physical issues. And he's having a lot of problems that I'm sure is very true to people who come back from war damage in some way. So, the one thing I'm concerned about is that I really do not, I love Quinn. I think he's a badass and everything, but he went through this experience. I'm sure he has some irreversible damage, and I don't want to see him just become Quinn again and recover and everything's fine. And I do not want him to get together with Carrie either. So, let me just say that.
Yeah, that ship has kind of sailed.
Yeah, it was unbelievable to begin with, and I think it was just a service to whoever liked that particular relationship. I never believed it. I'm much more interested in other relationships on the show. Speaking of which, apparently Mandy Patinkin's character Saul gets kidnapped again. It's he gets
kidnapped again?
Walking Dead. Yes, I see him being bundled into a van in this season. I'm like, Saul, you're the CIA
watch your back,
chief,
Saul.
and you're
Watch your back.
Carl in The Walking Dead. Just stop.
Well, I've been a fan of Homeland, and I really liked last season. I started watching this season premiere, and I just wasn't able to pay attention. And Homeland is a show where you kind of have to pay attention. So I will get back to it, and I will watch it, and I'll probably watch the entire season. So we can talk about that more as the season progresses. Now, before we end the show, I want to talk about another show that is premiering on Thursday evening on E! Called Revenge Body with Khloe Kardashian.
Oh, please, talk to me about it.
Highbrow. So everyone knows that Khloe Kardashian has gone through a body transformation over the past 2 years, I would say. So now she is helping other people do the same with a little revenge element. So I watched the premiere, and basically it's two people, and they each have a story about someone they want to get revenge against. So there's this one guy, and his boyfriend broke up with him after he gained 40 pounds. So he wants to lose the weight, and then at the big reveal party show his ex-boyfriend what he's lost. And then
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you?
Yes.
This does not sound mentally healthy. You should be losing the weight for yourself, not to get back at somebody.
Thank you,
that
Vicki.
just sounds bad.
Okay, so the second young woman is she wants to get revenge on her former friend because her former friend would make fun of her for not being as skinny as the rest of her crew, and she was the designated ugly fat friend, also known as the Duff, which was a movie starring what was the name of darn it, on Parenthood. What was the name of the daughter?
Parenthood, yes, that girl. Yes, I know who exactly who you're talking about.
You know who I'm talking about, right? Okay.
It was not ugly or fat by any stretch of the imagination.
Thank you. That's why I said that. Mae Whitman, yes, that's how I feel about this girl on Revenge Body. There was nothing wrong with her. But the way that works is they meet with Chloe, and Chloe sits down and gets their story about who they want to get revenge with, and then she sets them up with a personal trainer, who one of the personal trainers in this episode was Gunnar Peterson, who's the big-time LA personal trainer, and then also sets them up with a nutritionist. So then they work really hard for some amount of time that I don't recall because I was only half paying attention, and then at the end there's like a big reveal party where the person that they're trying to get revenge against, I guess, is at the party, and then they have a heart-to-heart. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't need to watch this.
And the thing is, like, it's a heart-to-heart. It's like everybody knows they're on camera, so you're not actually being real. You're just, like, saying whatever
because the heart-to-heart's on camera, yeah. Right, right. And also the one guy, the one who was trying to get back at his ex-boyfriend, the young woman, her revenge reveal was in a bikini or a bathing suit. And they showed the side-by-side before and after. His revenge reveal, before he was in swim trunks or trunks, and then after he's in a suit. And I'm like, you can't tell the difference. Like, why? Like, that's not a good before and after shot. That's usually not how that works.
Might as well be on what not to wear, basically.
Thank you, which was a good show. So, yeah, I would say no on Revenge Body if anyone was considering. Don't waste your time. But watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians when that comes back.
I'm saying, like, there's a built-in audience for this, so people are going to watch it.
There is. People will watch it. It will be successful. All right, Vicki, that's going to do it this week. Everyone, Vicki was in LA. I'm in New York. There may have been some audio issues. We totally apologize for that. But we will be back next week, audio issue free, talking about all of your favorite TV shows. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, @Remote Podcast, @E_meds, and @Vicki High, VICKIHY.